And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And folks, we got a great show today. We're going to have a couple of discussions. We're going to talk about the 9-month abortion law that was passed in Massachusetts. And we also going to dip into the Dominion voting machines, which they have found out that they did cheat with the machines. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know. You're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. I'm your host, Pastor David. Y'all come on in. And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And first, let me give all praises to Yahusha and Yahuwah, that's God in Christ in Hebrew. To the American people and patriots across this country, we have to really pay close attention to what's going on each day because things are changing so horribly. So when they got rid of Roe versus Wade, the Democrats have continued to press on with the abortion issue. So the other day, Massachusetts governor signed a law because when Roe versus Wade was kicked down, it was up to the states to make decisions about abortions. So the Massachusetts governor has signed it into law in Massachusetts that abortions can be done all the way up until the 9th month. And for me as a pastor, the 5th commandment says, thou shalt not murder. So now that's what it looks like with these states, the blue states that are pushing this new law to abort children in the 9th month. And in saying that, I got to get my team in. We're going to start this discussion. What's up, Randy? Doc? Let me get Doc in there. Dre, what's up, y'all?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Guys, listen. It just seems like it's never ending. The Democratic Party has put their whole election around abortions. You know, at the last election, they had the Democratic convention. I was asked to come down and talk about, with Miss Ingram about the situation. And when I got down there, they had an abortion truck in Chicago outside, and people were standing getting abortions that day. And I mean, I was taken completely back about this whole thing. I'm like, well, what is so important about killing babies? Because the 5th commandment says, thou shalt not murder. And if you are killing a child at 9 months, that's simply murder. And those who are getting these abortions at 9 months should be going to prison, because if I kill somebody and whether an adult or a child, I'm going to prisons. So this abortion is this law is making it legal to kill babies in their 9th month. Doc, you up first. What you think about that?
Well, but I actually covered this on my show. I think the part about it, they're using medical situations and calling them abortions to justify the bill. What I mean by that is a woman that has a pregnancy, they're calling that abortion. Not.
Sort of break it up, Doc.
Oh, sorry. You guys now?
You sound better. Go ahead.
Okay. And so what I was saying is, if a woman is having an ectopic pregnancy, which means the baby is fallopian tube outside of the womb, they're saying if a doctor goes in to remove that fetus, right, that's not viable, that's an abortion, and it's not. And so what this bill is doing is relating actual issues of that you come along with pregnancy and say, okay, we have to make it up until 9 months for the viability of the mother. But what I'm saying is they're conflating it to justify the, okay? So
Mhm.
it's really sad what they're doing, but it really comes back to free will, right? We all
Mhm.
have it, but how are you using it? And they are really trying to make people okay with murder. They really are with my.
Randy, your thoughts?
I'm gonna say the unpopular thing here, as usual. It's Darwinism. They're self-selecting to reduce their own population, and they're aborting their babies. So as our generations get older and we move on, and those who have some common sense, we are populating the planet with those with common sense kids. And so I'm not for abortion in that regard. But however, comma, when we're looking at the gravity of this whole situation, they're self-selecting themselves out of the equation, and it's just a matter of time before they're gone. So, for people that think that abortion up to the ninth month is okay, you're emphatically retarded. Period. Full stop.
Okay, Mr. Binky, you're up. What's your thoughts?
Well, to me, it sounds like government's trying to replace God.
Mm.
When you replace God, you're replacing morals and values and ethics. Um, I went through this personally, where my child had defects, and the first thing come out of the doctor's mouth is, would you consider aborting?" Of course, we said no. We dealt with what we had. But now government's sitting there going, they're encouraging people. To me, they're trying to replace God with immoral acts,
Mhm.
and giving the people an excuse to actually murder somebody. I mean, this has no, as far as I know, this don't have any situations in it, whether the mother's life is at threat or if the child can't survive or something. It's just, if you change your mind, you can abort that child even after it's born. I mean, 9 months, 20 months, whatever, from conception, that's a living thing.
Mhm.
Yes.
And now government's making it okay, and that's how I look at it. Is they're trying to replace moralities, principles, values, and quite frankly, it tells me that Democrats don't care about life.
Mhm.
Andre, you're a new father and you recently had a newborn fat baby. What are your thoughts on this?
I wouldn't call myself new, but like I have a new baby. But I'm really disappointed by this, but we knew that this was going to happen once the Dobbs decision came and they kicked it back to the states. We knew that there were going to be some states that were going to take a very liberal or very harsh view towards abortion. We knew that California was going to be basically a mecca for people to go and have abortions. So
Mhm.
we have the red and we have the blue states, and a lot of the blue states have taken like a very liberal position on abortion, and this up to 9 months is just ridiculous to me.
And the
Well,
other thing I wanted to throw in there
go
was,
ahead.
they're not talking about the body part people that happen after these, but there's a whole black market for that.
Mhm.
And Trump, stop the funding for Planned Parenthood. He put like a monkey wrench in some people's pocketbook. So they're really pushing for this, that park open. That's another reason, in my opinion, this bill. And, when does it stop? 9 months? And like Mr. Bing said, 20 months? Are you going to abort a 3-year-old? What about a 40-year-old? Right? Where does this end?
Well, the Democrats are hanging their hat, and this is what I don't understand about this whole Democratic Party thing. They know that it is wrong to kill a child at 9 months. It's wrong to kill a child in exception, because once a child has been created, it's a human life. It's a human being. And so for these states now, and to the American people and patriots, especially the Democrats, if you believe in God and Christ, how can you go along with this absurdity to kill a child that's full born, limbs, everything at 9 months? It's not making any sense. But what it's really showing is that the Democratic Party has gone so far to the left. They don't care about God. They don't care about the lives of the American citizens. And it only goes to show you just how bad they've gotten when they want to kill a child in the womb at 9 months, a living, breathing, arms full, head, brain, everything working on the child. You want to kill it because of what? It's not making a lot of sense, guys. I'm going to play this clip and we'll talk about it. Go ahead, Randy.
In Jeremiah 1:5, this is how you know that the Democrats are depraved people. And to your point about, if you believe in God, then you should believe in the sanctity of life, because in Jeremiah 1:5, and I quote here, that before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet of the nations. That tells you right there that the life begins at conception, and that God places us in the womb as human beings and as people. And so for Democrats to sit there and try to justify, say, oh, it's just a fetus, oh, it's just an embryo, and so it's not a human life, you don't know the word of God, and you are an apostate and a depraved individual.
Well, I have to say this. Go ahead, Mr. Binky.
Now I'm going to play the other side of the coin here. Let's not say you have to believe in God. Okay.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just put it. Let's look at yourself. What are you about? What are your morals? What are your conscience? What are you about when you're wanting to take a life, especially a woman that has a life inside of her? What are you about? Does this, they'll want to argue, well, just because I don't believe in God. Well, okay. Let's go by that. What are you about? You got to think about that.
Well, you know what Doc Nichols was talking about too is the fact that aborting these children at 9 months, and then the black market for parts, baby parts and human organs and all like that, that's demonic. The Democratic Party has gone past the stage of being a party that represents people. They have made a deal with Satan, and they're really showing their hand, right? They've instituted the transgenders, where they tried to create a new race of people. They've allowed homosexuality and pushed it into schools with our children. I mean, the Democratic Party has gone so far to the left that I just don't see how anybody, especially any American citizen, can sit there and watch the tactics that they're using and justify it by saying, well, we're going to leave it up to the woman. Well, it's not up to the woman, because if you're going to pass a law that says you could murder a child at 9 months, and these are full-grown babies at 9 months, then they need to open the prisons and let people out of prison for crimes of murder, when now you're going to legally say you can murder a child at 9 months through an abortion, but if you kill somebody on the streets, you go into prison for life. Let me play this clip and we'll discuss it.
More than 4 years after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, the divide over abortion access is growing from state to state. On Monday, Massachusetts Democratic Governor Maura Healey signed a bill allowing abortion up until the time of birth,
so that new patients people we won't know or won't meet will be able to get the care that they need.
Supporters say the law protects patients and doctors facing rare and often complicated medical circumstances later in pregnancy.
Empowers physicians to make those judgments with their patients and no one else.
Massachusetts now joins Alaska, Colorado, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, and Vermont, along with Washington, D.C., with no time limit on abortions. Anti-abortion groups are blasting the change, arguing it goes far beyond what most Americans support.
The blue states have become even more extreme on abortion since Roe v. Wade fell. And unfortunately, abortions have gone up in our country since Roe v. Wade fell. We have 1.1 million abortions nationally in the U.S.
On the other side of the debate, 13 states have near total or total bans with very limited exceptions in effect. Abortion rights are directly on the ballot in 4 states this November. Voters in Idaho will decide whether to roll back the state's abortion ban, while Virginia and Nevada consider enshrining abortion rights into their state constitutions. And in Missouri, voters will decide whether to reinstate an abortion ban they voted to overturn in 2024.
The latest available data shows the public remains deeply divided. While about 2/3 of Americans support legal abortion in the first trimester, support falls sharply later in pregnancy, with 22% saying it should be legal in the 3rd trimester. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins, reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Okay. Okay, Doc, you down there chopping at the bit. Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, to change state constitution, well, here's the thing about it, and this is what I don't
Break it up a little bit, Doc.
Okay, sorry. You can give people more than the law, but you cannot give them less than what the law allows, which means the Constitution flat out says you cannot murder someone. Abortion is murder. You can't change that in your state constitution because there's still a supremacy clause. These people are insane, like the bloodlust that they have. This is crazy, but this is what demonic activity.
Dre?
Yeah, and one of the states that we were talking about was Virginia, where I live, and Spamberger tried to redistrict the entire state and put that redistricting in the state constitution. I'm a little concerned because that did pass, but they found that it wasn't constitutionally legal for them to do that. So my concern now is that Northern Virginia is really screwing everything up as far as these votes on issues. The rest of the state could, come to the polls, do what they need to do. But if we get an overwhelming push from Northern Virginia, that's going to be a problem. So I'm hoping they don't put this garbage into our state constitution. And I hope that Dr. Nichols is right, that there will be a supremacy clause and it will get knocked down again, even if they vote for it.
Randy?
We have to be legislatively smart here. And to Dr. Nichols' point, you're absolutely right. But we have to redefine what abortion is. And in order to do that, you have to say, okay, if you're going to abort, consider this as murder. And then that takes everything else off the table at that point. Because right now, abortion, the term abortion itself is a nuanced term and it stands alone. And so what people look at it as is, okay, I'm aborting a mission, I'm leaving something, or I'm getting rid of something, versus you actually attach it to an implication. And if we fail to do that, we're just running in circles here. So I would say you have to redefine what the term abortion means. It is murdering, in the context of medicine and the medical aspect of it. Say abortion, this is murder. So if you are willing to murder this child, this embryo, this fetus, this human being, understand the implications behind that. And that would change the mental dynamics of it all. I can guarantee that.
Mr. Binky?
Well, I don't have no problem constitutionally with the states having the authority to be able to make their own laws. Article 1, Section 8 gives the authority to government on what they can, what they have the power to regulate. What it's boiling back down to is, like, you know, Randy was just talking about, what's abortion? You know, it's a taking of life without what
process.
You know, it's got to be defined. You know, is there a medical problem? Is there, you know, this is an open end act of murder is what it is. And you know, when the states, I don't, it's a deterioration of society, I guess, is what I'm trying to really get at.
Yes, I agree.
People today don't care about nothing but themselves. They don't want responsibility. They don't want to have to do anything more than they need to. They want to exist. And the people today are just so selfish, I guess, you know. And now you got lawmakers saying it's okay to be that way. You don't need to be moral. You don't have to worry about other people. You just worry about yourself, no matter if it comes down to part of you, you know, you giving a life. So, yeah, the states constitutionally have the right to decide their own laws. And that's what a state constitution is. It's supposed to be something that the people approve of. You know, this is put on a ballot and the people. So, you know, sometimes the people bring on their own problems because they're not educated or because they're losing their morality. I don't know.
Well,
they can no longer pretend that the whole 9 abortion thing. I'm saying you people are crazy. Nobody's doing those things. Nobody's saying that abortion is legal up to 9 months. Well, it's legal now.
Right.
Well, you know, a lot of, and I'm, as a pastor, man, my colleagues like myself, we should be going out to war against this. Pastors across the country, these big name pastors, all of them we should be forming an alliance right now to stop it, because it is a direct conflict of what God said in the 5th commandment, thou shalt not murder. And to be able to murder a child legally, the moral fabric of this country has gone down to the depths of hell. You know, who would ever have thought that, you know, first of all, we need to quit funding Planned Parenthood, because Planned Parenthood is using healthcare as a screen to really try to keep these abortions going, because Planned Parenthood is in the Black community like a McDonald's. They on every other corner destroying the Black community. And that's what Margaret Sanger said. She said that her mission was to destroy the Black race, to stop the Black race from growing. And that's why she created Planned Parenthood. And I don't understand how anybody that say that they love God and Christ, even Christians, should be standing up against this, because this is in direct conflict of what the 5th commandment says, thou shalt not murder. And here we are in 2026 legalizing murder, but you're not legalizing. So if you legalize it to kill a child, then you're going to have to change the laws that you've written for people who murdered other people. Because a life is a life, whether it's a child or a grown up or what. So you can legalize it to say, oh, we can kill babies because, you know, they just fetuses, whatever. But at 9 months, that's a human being. That's a living, breathing, all function human. And now you're going to allow this. I just think it's crazy, man. I think that we've gotten the people in this country that's running our country, that work for us, is not doing what the American people want. And I'm telling the people who are voting Democratic, if you have a relationship with God and Christ, and you go along with this murder of a child at 9 months, you better check yourself, because that's not the God that I serve. The God that I serve said that we are supposed to preserve life, that we're supposed to enhance life. And yet here we are, killing babies at 9 months, but we locking men and women up who get into a situation where they kill somebody and saying, oh, well, you know what? You killed so-and-so, so you're going to jail for life. But a woman can go in at 9 months and kill a baby that's full-fledged baby, and it's no big deal. And they've created a law to support that. I'm going to play what the governor of Massachusetts did, guys, and we'll talk about that.
In doing that, Erica, she said this is really aimed at helping women who've been presented with devastating diagnoses and major complications. Governor Healey signs a law removing exceptions to late-term abortions, leaving the decision to the doctor.
We're going to make sure that women in particular are able to make their own health care decisions, not the government.
Before this, state law allowed abortions after 24 weeks, but only with certain exceptions.
We were determined to give our son peace.
Alex Lawton and Kate Deneen traveled to Maryland for a late-term abortion. At 33 weeks along, they learned their son's diagnosis did not qualify for an exception.
We learned that our son, Teddy, had suffered a catastrophic stroke in utero. He would either die or survive for some period of time with a spectrum of devastating outcomes.
9 other states and Washington, D.C. also do not have a gestational ban on abortion. Governor Healey blasted President Trump and her Republican opponents on the issue.
Abortion's on the ballot in this election. It couldn't be more clear.
Mike Minogue, who describes himself as pro-life, says, I'm disappointed the governor is playing extreme politics with women's health. I would much rather see the people of Massachusetts voice their opinion and decide this, not the politicians. He wouldn't say if that meant a ballot question. Brian Shortsleeve's campaign says he would have signed the law, adding Brian Shortsleeve has been clear throughout this campaign that he is pro-choice and believes these deeply personal decisions should be made between a woman and her doctor. Deneen says removing exceptions will help women.
Today, we are righting this wrong once and for all.
The National Right to Life telling us when lawmakers remove every objective limitation and authorize an abortion provider to decide whether an abortion may be performed at any point in pregnancy, abortion until birth is precisely what the law allows. We're live here at the State House. Charmin Sacchetti, WCVB News Center 5.
Randy, your thoughts?
It's crazy to me that we're looking at the framing. There's 2 frames that I have an issue with here. The first framing is that it's reproductive health. When stats have shown that when a woman goes in and get an abortion, it typically causes reproductive damage. So I don't get how they're framing an abortion as reproductive health. That's the first thing. The second thing is they're framing this around a woman's right to choose. What about the father's rights? See, we never want to bring into the equation the father. It takes 2 at the end of the day. Unless a woman has become a bird or a fish and they just self-reproduce all of a sudden, there is another component involved in all of this. So when you say, oh, well, let the father needs to have a say in this as well, and we have a discussion and y'all take a vote type of thing. They never say that. They never frame it around that. But let that child be born, and there's a issue between the mother and the father, and now they want the father to pay child support. Nah. Y'all got that. You want to have that baby, you raise it, type of thing. So there's a lot of conundrums and a lot of nuances that we don't want to talk about. But the fact that they decided that they want to have abortions, like I said, is all about framing. Change the definition to law.
Dre?
Governor Haley's been busy. And the more and more we kind of sit around and watch, the more we need to pray for the state of Massachusetts. 2 weeks ago, they voted. She created a bill that stated that the state was not going to work with ICE, and put new parameters around where they would not work with ICE, which are the churches, which are the hospitals. And all of these arguments that she's making are similar arguments that she's making now, that it's going to make it so that the people are safer and that they're not in fear. And here it is, she's going with abortion, and she's just like, well, it's going to make it safe between a woman and her doctor to make this decision, and it's for people that are in tough situations. Where we've come as a society is that we put more belief in doctors and what they can do instead of putting our beliefs in what God can do, because God can heal. We don't know the outcome of what happens once that baby gets out of the womb. The doctors have made an assessment, but doctors have been wrong a lot of times. So she's been busy, and she's going to continue to make that state a radical state. Continue to pray for people in Massachusetts.
Doc?
Yeah, I definitely.
You're breaking up really bad, Doc.
Can you guys hear me? That better?
Yeah, that's better.
Then, but what Randy was saying is that abortion needs to be defined clearly, what it is, right, and what is actually supposed to happen at every step. And as long as it's really, I should say, subject to interpretation, because that's where it is right now, then they will continue to play this goalpost. Because again, what happens with the law when they say, okay, you can abort a child up to the time they're 3 years old. Now that's a walking, living, viable human being, but you can extend it, right? You could. What happens then, right? Because it has to be clearly defined. Again, they're using medical terms like an ectopic pregnancy and saying, well, that's an abortion. No, it's not. And you know it's not, but you don't want to define it, because as long as you define it, you will actually have to follow the law. And they don't want to follow the law. They want to be lawless. Like, this is the beginning of lawlessness, and people need to understand.
Mr. Mankey?
Yeah, it was pretty misleading for the news to put on the parents there that talked about their child at 33 weeks. Again, being as I've been put in that situation, it is a choice of a parent. You know, as a father said, and I'm not trying to doubt anything he said, but they were worried about, you know, what that child was going to go through because of the stroke. Okay. That's a different situation, but I don't think this bill that she signed into law has, how can I put it, has a definition of why she signed abortion up to 9 months. Right. Is it because of medical and only medical? Is it because I decided I don't want the responsibility? You know, I didn't read the bill, so I'm just assuming that it's just an open door policy. You know, you change your mind, you can do it. So if I'm wrong, I apologize, but you know, the intentions of Democrats and states that are doing this here seem to be more just to have an open door policy about abortion instead of having a necessity about abortion.
Yeah.
Well, guys, you know what? As a pastor, man, this is just no for me. I hate the fact that, you know, you can murder somebody and then yet here it is, an innocent child. You know, and they're using the excuse that really bothers me. They're saying, okay, well, we saw in the womb that this child had a stroke. That doesn't mean that child cannot be healed, because God can heal whatever, whoever he chooses to do. But you're not giving this living entity, a child, an opportunity to live and be healed when you try to play God and say, well, it looks like you're going to be this way, but then we're going to go ahead and kill you and maybe make a new one. You're right. They are trying to play God right now, because just as so many people who have testimonies of being dead, who have had injuries that sustained, that seemed that the doctors had given up on them and all of that. And yet God is the creator of life. And if he decides that he can fix a child who's had a stroke, he can fix it. So man has already turned himself away from God, and now they're really showing their hand to the American people and patriots across this country. To mothers, what about you? The same people that are pushing for these laws, what about you? What about your mother had decided that she didn't want your funky ass and killed you? Let's be honest. Let's be for real. So we have to really take a look as citizens and as parents. We have to take a real look at how the government now has stepped into our lives and dictating to us what we can and what we can do, what should be illegal, and when you can take a life and when you can't take a life. Mr. Binky?
Yeah, do you guys remember back in 2005 a gal named Terri Schiavo?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that.
My daughter was born with severe brain damage, and she's a 24/7 child. I raised her for 11 years by myself. Well, I had my kids help with me to take care of her, and I followed that tragedy. That was a judge, a government, without proof. There was nothing written. It was hearsay from her husband that she didn't want to live this way, and there was videos of her responding to her parents and her brothers, and she was responding to them. And that judge allowed this woman to be starved and dehydrated to death. There was no compassion. Her parents and brother wanted to take her and take care of her. And a judge, government is one of the same, allowed this woman to sit there and die of starvation and dehydration.
Well, you know, guys, the moral decay of America is on full view right now, you know, and the Democrats and those weak Republicans who now want to play God. You know what I'm saying? You know, well, what about Mr. McConnell, who's down there and he was put on life support? What if they might as well just have killed him? He was no more use for anybody. So if you legalize abortion, that means you need to legalize murder in the law. But the law is saying you can't murder somebody. The commandments, the fifth commandment said, "Thou shalt not murder." And yet we got a government, we got people, we got all parents now who, for convenience, well, I don't want to take a chance because God might not save my child. So, and I don't want to spend the money. So we might as well just kill it and get it out of the way and just live our lives and just do it over again. I just think that this whole thing is the telltale sign of the deterioration of our society. Now that you can approve to kill babies at 9 months, it's just crazy, guys. I just don't see anything good that can come out of this, man, especially with the Creator. God the Almighty is watching everything we do. And I think he's getting pretty well damn tired of all of this foolishness and mankind coming against his laws, and yet we're creating laws to do whatever we want to do. So when we see the sky bus open, when we see a hurricane come to Chicago and destroy it, when it goes to the earthquakes and all of that, when you see all of these things, that's God's displeasure with us as human beings, guys. Anybody want to say anything else on this before we go to our next phase of the show?
Well, I did want to remind everybody that they have something called MAID, which is medical dying. And so they don't view that as murder. They consider it suicide, but it's still murder because they're writing it in law. And I want to say like 11 states where you can legally commit suicide, and they will.
Yeah, Dre?
I don't have anything else before we transition. I appreciate it, though.
Randy, you want to say anything before we transition?
I'll wait.
Okay, guys. So here we go. Moving right along. All right. So in 2020, President Trump was screaming about the elections were stolen. Everybody, the Democrats, was making it seem like, oh, he's crazy, he's losing his mind, And for me, I like to make sure that they're not cheating. But being a Chicagoan, I know they cheat. I've seen it. The last midterms when we went out, we was hired by the Heritage Foundation, and we have all our receipts to back up what I'm saying right now. President Trump said that the election was stolen and they was doing something with the machines. Everybody laughed. Everybody said, oh, no, this Trump crazy. That's not happening. But when we went out and we found the thumb drives, when we found the printers, when we saw them putting cards in and they're coming back out and all of that stuff, we knew then that they were cheating, and we handed it over to the Heritage Foundation, and they did what they were supposed to do to combat this. But now here we are, 2026. Years later, 6 years later, now we find out that the machines cheated. President Trump was correct. The Democrats have been using these machines to get votes that they didn't have. They use these same machines to delete Republican votes. I mean, this whole thing with the machines that's supposed to make the voting system better, but it has made the voting system worse. How can you say that you have a night to vote and then the election goes on for 4 or 5 weeks with counting? That doesn't make sense. Your thoughts on that, Randy?
The problem is when you, like California, like you just mentioned, when you take in weeks to count ballots, you're counting to see how much you need to win by, because you already know that the first couple of hours, at least at minimum, the first couple of hours, who's going to win the race. So they take all the sweet time in the world and collect all these ballots, create ballots and everything else to get into that margin of victory that they need. And we already know this. And the problem with, with voting and the way why people are, I guess you say, self-selecting not to vote anymore is because they know, and internally they know, my vote don't count, my vote don't matter. Stalin said this great. He said it best. Stalin said it ain't about who votes, it's about who's counting the votes. And when we got paper ballots and machines and all these other, extra tools to determine who wins an election, there's a problem. It needs to be a unified system across all states, across the whole board, and say, hey, okay, let's bring in a third party company to count the ballots and everything else, and we sit back and say, it is what it is from there. But we're not doing that because we want to cheat. It's both sides of that. It's both sides of the aisle. It ain't just Democrats. It ain't just Republicans. It's both sides. Like I said, you got places that I've seen personally where the ballots are being counted and they're adding zeros behind 100 to make it 1,000. So you see crazy stuff all the time, and we sit back and we stay quiet because it's in our favor. But at the end of the day, we all know cheating is going on, but we don't want to do anything about it because then it's going to flip back onto us. Like, well, you cheated in the last election. And it's like, yeah, well, so this is where we at in society. How do we fix it? Yeah, it's up to us to fix it.
Doc?
We already know the problem is.
I mean, we have what they consider third countries that better elections. Crazy, but they do. I mean, I want to say it's in one of those countries where they dip their fingers to show that they voted, so actually how many people have cast a ballot. And to Randy's point, till people actually just stop cheating on both sides, we're really not going to have free and fair elections. It's unfortunate. Now, can we fix it? Do we want to fix it? Is the big question.
Mr. Binky?
Yeah. Well, you listen to all these polls we have now today. I don't remember in the past of every 5 minutes a new poll on who's winning this and who's winning that. So I think polls themselves are manipulative. you know, somebody's going to say, well, I don't need to vote because that other candidate's poll is so much higher. I don't know. This electronic stuff, you know, as it was brought up, it takes weeks in California to count votes. Well, if this electronic stuff's supposed to be so much better, why is it taking weeks now? I remember in the past with paper ballots, they had a good idea that night. So, you know, this electronic stuff, it can be manipulated. It is being manipulated. And as long as we keep doing it that way, it's going to be manipulated, because this election stuff is about power. It's not limited power of government. They're not going there to do the right job. They're going there to finish up what they believe they want to get done. It's not about the people no more. It's about their own agendas now.
Andre?
Well, I'm about to dig into a big old bowl of right, because I don't know if you guys remember, the president was saying over and over and over again that there was cheating going on. And everybody a lot of people on the left treated the president like he was delusional, and even some people on the right. And for us to be in this place where we're finding that the things that the president was saying were right, the things that the issues that we thought were going on with COVID, right? You know, like, we keep finding out after the fact that the things that we're concerned about are coming to light. So I'm not surprised that we're seeing this. I'm just glad that it came out. Now that it's out, what's going to happen now?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, you know what needs to happen is they need to be going to prison. Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, all of them played a role in knowing that they were going to use these machines, because I think what really tipped it off was, remember the guy in Venezuela? When he had the same machines, they found the machines over there when they invaded Venezuela, and that's how they were able to figure out how this happened. But it's, you know, I have to take my hat off to President Trump. You know, some of his friends purchased the Dominion Machines company, and that's how, once that they purchased the company, they were able to go in, because they owned everything, and find the flaws that was programmed into these machines to cheat. And I have to say this. Rudy Giuliani, I met him in New York. He said that the machines was bad. Tucker Carlson also said the machines were bad. You name it. A friend of mine, Mike Liddell, the Pillow Man, you know, he and I tried to get him because I wanted him to come on the show, but he was unavailable. But he put his whole livelihood, his whole money, everything he worked for, and made the truth and say the machines were bad, and they was breaking him down with it. They filed defamation lawsuits like this company was so righteous and everything. But just the other day, Mike Liddell, they dropped the lawsuits, and now they need to make him whole. They're going to pay the attorney fees. If you did me like that, I need to be made whole. They should now counter with another lawsuit that now that they know the machines are bad, that Dominion need to pay these people who they got court cases against and took their livelihoods away because they told the truth. I'm going to play this clip and we can talk about it.
Long legal battle between the CEO of MyPillow and a voting machine company is now over. You might remember the name Dominion Voting Systems. Mike Lindell claimed without evidence that they stole the 2020 election from Donald Trump. Dominion filed a $1.3 billion defamation suit against Lindell in 2021. And in October, a Trump ally brought Dominion and renamed it Liberty Vote. And then this week, the lawsuit against Lindell was dropped. Now, last year, a Colorado jury ordered Lindell to pay more than $2 million for defaming a former Dominion employee. A Minnesota jury also found he defamed another voting tech company called Smartmatic. Lindell is hoping to secure the Republican nomination for governor in this fall's primary against House Speaker Lisa Demuth and businessman Kendall Qualls. The winner will face Senator Amy Klobuchar, who is running unopposed. The primary taking place in August.
All right, guys, your thoughts, Randy. Now that the cat is out the bag, what are your thoughts?
You know, it is interesting that the lawsuit was dropped, but I also find it interesting that we still have not determined what was the actual vote count from all of this. Like, what happened with what state and system and everything else. But aside from that, but I'll put that to the side for a minute. Michigan just had, you know, their primary night, Tuesday night. 5 counties have 5 USB disk drives that they turned in where the votes were erased. And so this is how I can't recall his name now, but he was running against the crazy Francesca Hong. I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts here that she probably actually won the election, and they magically turned in these erased USB drives so he can win, because they're like, hell no, we ain't getting this crazy chick in here. So there could be that. I could be wrong, but nonetheless, if you got 5 erased flash drives, you still got the paper ballots that was scanned into the machines to create that vote on that USB drive. Go back and count those ballots. They won't do that because that would be a tell-off for them. So it's all crazy.
It's all insane. I just wonder what's going to happen with Fox News. Because weren't they also sued by Dominion? So now that the person owns it, that's going to be reversed. Mm-hmm. Will Fox be able to claw back anything or any of their findings? So this really, you know, it opens up, I don't want to say another can of worms, but it definitely opens Pandora's box.
Yes.
And it will actually be able to go in and find out the email exchanges, different states, and what the lawyer said, because now all of it is their property, right? Mm-hmm. That they find. So like I said, it's going to be really interesting to see how we move forward.
Mr. Binky?
Yeah, well, it's not just where Mr. Lindell is. What's it? Real America Vote. They went into the New York election, and they found out of the 5.3 voters, only 42% of the votes were actually legitimate. Mm-hmm. Most were unverifiable. The most were unqualified, and most of them didn't even have a social security number. So, you know, this is a problem throughout the whole country, and it's got to get fixed. And, you know, like Randy said, you know, and Andre said, we've got to fix it. You know, we've got to make sure, we got to demand more. You know, you sit back and not say nothing. That's basically silence is consent. They'll do what they want.
Andre, your thoughts?
Well, the first thing I'm thinking about is poor Rudy Giuliani, because they really treated him like trash. I don't know if you guys remember this interview, but he was under so much pressure that he was sweating out his hair color and went all down his face. They need to make him whole. They made Mike Lindell whole. They need to make him whole too. But ultimately, like Steve is saying, we really do have a problem. We need to fix this situation on both sides. And just imagine if Trump's ally hadn't bought the company, we would still be up in the air. It would still be a conspiracy theory now. Now it's a fact that they just...
It's a fact. Yep. And you know what? The sad thing of it is all of these people like Tucker Carlson, Fox, and all of them who got sued by reporting the truth. And now that it's out, Dominion is going to have to fork some money over. They're going to have to fork some money over, and somebody in that organization should be going to jail, because how they really found out about it was there was a whistleblower that worked for Dominion that told the truth. I'm going to play this clip and we can talk about it.
Representative Steve Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So obviously these allegations are very troubling. This is my question here. If these ballots were run through multiple times, as you've alleged, and then you said possibly up to 30,000 times, definitely thousands of times being counted, when we examine the poll book and see who voted, and we count those numbers,
Yes.
would they then not line up with the total number of votes coming out of Detroit?
Just later. The poll book is completely off. Completely off.
Off by
That
30,000?
I'd say that poll book is off by over 100,000.
And
That poll book. Why don't you look at the registered voters on there? How many registered voters are on there? Do you even know the answer to that?
No, I guess I'm trying to get to the bottom of this here.
Zero. There's zero.
So, my question then is, if the
Guess how many? Wait. What about the turnout rate? 120%.
Let's let Representative Johnson ask his question.
So the poll.
All right, guys, your thoughts on that, Randy?
Clowning him.
Yeah, she was clowning him. Yeah. She should have calmed down just a little bit, so the panel could take her a little bit more seriously. But she makes some great points. You got 120. I have never even seen above a 90% voter turnout.
No.
In any election, above 90. Never seen it. And I've been doing this for 30 years. Never seen it. Never even heard of it. But that's hallmark number one. The other piece is the registered voters. How many registered voters were there, and compared to the poll book who showed up to vote? If there's a disparity there, then you already know that whatever the ballot count is, if it doesn't even match up to that, you already know that there was something wrong. And so they know this. Those guys sitting on that panel there, they know that. And at the end of the day, if you don't know that, you might want to consider a new job, because that's just elementary, math right there. But the greater problem that we have is it's not even about the amount of registered voters. It's the qualified voters that we have a problem with. And like up in New Jersey, the governor up there admitted that they had 6,000 people voting, that was illegal voters. They said, well, that's not enough. This is the argument that I love to fight with. Well, that's not enough to overturn an election. Voter fraud anywhere is a threat to election integrity everywhere. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 1,000. It doesn't matter. That's the problem that we have. We try to justify any time that there's a discrepancy. We try to justify it. Say, well, that's not enough. Well, when will it be enough? And that's the problem that we have.
Mr. Binky?
I want her phone number. She was as annoying, I guess you could say, as she acted or whatever. She's right. I mean, there was many counties all over, and in many of the states that were borderline and stuff that had more votes than voters. I think Florida had a number of them. South Carolina, North Carolina, Arizona, I think. There were several states that had counties that had Michigan, Wisconsin. They had more votes than voters. And here again, if you don't have a secure election, you ain't got an election. You just got a free for all.
Doc?
Yeah, I think what I would like for them to find is to explain the QR codes on ballots, because they continue to say that, it's not connected to the internet. The only way you can read a QR code is if there's a website embedded or some type of image embedded, and that takes having to use the internet to qualify this QR code. Like, I live in the state of Georgia. They're refusing to remove the code, and they actually added another QR code. So there's not just one, there's two, but they keep telling the general public, nothing to see here, everything's okay. Yeah, those are the questions that I want now that somebody actually
Andre?
Yeah, I believe President Trump has a bill. It's currently in Congress. What is it called again? I think it's the Save America Act.
Yes.
Why aren't both parties on each side voting for this and getting this through? We obviously have a problem, and the Save America Act would definitely help with the issues that we're having at the polls.
Mr. Bing?
Yeah, well, the 26th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, they all say that Congress has the authority to pass legislation on the article. So, I mean, it says in there that citizens, so, I mean, it don't take much to say you got to prove yourself. I mean, it don't have to be a long bill. All it's got to say, you need to prove that you're an American citizen and get it over with. I mean, yeah, both parties are at fault here for what's going on with it.
And what I find interesting, I think, on bring up the back a little bit of research. I'm like, what does an identification card, state ID, a driver's license, and a bank account all have in common? You have to have a birth certificate. Every single one of those. So I don't want to hear this excuse. Well, you can't come up. If you have a bank account, you have that document. If you have a driver's license, you have that document. They just want to cheat. They just want people to have that complete carte blanche to vote in our elections when they don't belong there.
Well, you know what, guys? We're pushing the Save America Act because everything that we do requires an ID, and the American people are saying that this bill need to be passed because it doesn't make any sense to say that you don't need an ID to vote when we need an ID for everything. So for me, this should tell the American people we need to start pushing back on those Democratic entities and those leaders who are saying, well, no, the SAVE Act is going to cheat people out of voting. Well, what we just showed the American people, they cheated like hell with the machines. They've got caught now, and they're still talking about how, they still don't need an ID to vote. It's just totally ludicrous, guys. And I just think that if we're going to have true elections again in this country, we need to get back to the paper ballot. The election needs to end that night whatever the count is at the end of that night, it's over. It should not go another day. And the fact of the matter is, now with the SAVE Act, and it should be passed, the American people need to be calling their legislators who are voting against this, which is the Democratic Party, because now that this is all out in the open, the Democrats are not going to be able to cheat during the midterms because everybody's watching right now. We know the machines are bad. We know you got illegals on the rolls. I mean, the whole thing of corruption that the Democrats have done is in the open, and the American people should be up in arms about it. And we actually need to take actions against the Democrats for what they did because they knew that they were cheating. And I'm going to give y'all this question before we get out of here. Okay, guys. Now that we know that they cheated like hell, it's proven. Do you think that President Trump deserves another term?
No.
Dre?
No. I think that I first of all, I think he'd be too old. I'm not saying that he wouldn't be a good candidate. I just think that 2 terms is enough. And he served his 2 terms. He served his country.
Mr. Binky?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to be submissive like most people about Trump. He's doing stuff that I'm not real happy with. So I mean, I'd rather had the Trump in 2016 than the Trump of 2024. He's more of a he's more of a politician now. So as Andre said, and Dr. Nichols said, he's served his time and that's it.
Doc, you want to comment on it before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, he's not. He's one of our first presidents in history to serve 2 terms, right? as two separate numbers, which I think is kind of cool. That's very historic. But you serve two terms. You've done your job. You actually unearthed a lot of corruption and fraud, but it's up to us as the American people to continue to not just expose it, fix it. Okay? We already knew it was going on, so we've exposed it. Now it's really up to us to fix it. The president is a great person, right? Whoever that person is in the seat, but it's up to us, we the people, to fix it. It does not just fall on the president.
But guys, you know what? The clock on the wall said we got to get out of here. This is a great conversation. Mr. Beaky, your last words before we get up out of here.
Yeah, well, when you think something's going good, you just better be careful, because you turn your head, you're going to be in big trouble, you know. And, you know, we've got to start holding our government more accountable. We've got a lot of AI arguments going on right now.
Yes.
And in my opinion, AI can be good. It can be used good in certain things, but when it comes to government wanting to push it, they're the ones that's got to be restricted, not us.
Doc, your last words?
Yeah, I'm definitely on that. There's always something out there technological. It can be used for good, or it can be useful. So again, it's about we the people. And definitely check out USARedemptionParty.com candidates, which are serving people parties who are done with both parties. I'm not saying that all parties are horrible, but you are done with war. Check out the party at USA.
Dre, your last words.
No, the truth is coming out, and let the truth be told. It's always good to spend time chopping it up with you guys, and I hope the viewers enjoyed the show.
I want to thank you guys, and y'all have a great weekend, and we'll try to get together next week, and I want to do a show about the AI. Steve, I know you want to be on that. Let's do some research on it, get together next weekend. Have a great weekend. Blessings to you all, and we'll see each other next week. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in to the show. That's what we do here with Let the Truth Be Told. We seek knowledge that we can continue to give it to the American people so that they can know what's actually going on in our country. These are my last words to the American people and patriots across this country. Now that we can see why the Democrats have been so brazen, like Brandon Johnson and all the things he did, J.B. Pritzker coming up for election here at the midterms as governor, we already know in Illinois that they cheat like hell, but now that we know that they're doing it with the machines, maybe that will make a difference. But it's going to take the American people to stand up and cry foul and push President Trump administration to file charges. It doesn't do any good for us as citizens that when we can see all the lies, the money that they've stole, the way they've cheated with the machines, the way they've manipulated the media, they've manipulated the American people lifestyle to the point where they think that we're completely stupid. But now that we can see that the Democratic Party, who created the Ku Klux Klan, who especially to black citizens, who destroyed the Black Wall Street, who none of the Democrats voted for the Civil Rights Bill, all the things that black people have was voted on and passed by the Republican Party. So I'm telling black folks, we have to leave the Democratic Party. We should no longer be a part of a party that hates black people, use black people, open our borders and allow for illegals to invade the black community. This has all been done at our expense, even to the things of putting abortion clinics like Planned Parenthood in the black community. And Margaret Sanger specifically said that she wanted to destroy the black community. That's why she created Planned Parenthood. And to the black community, look at our family structure. Look what has happened to us now that we are in a place to where we no longer have communities that are true black communities. We no longer have schools that are teaching our children about black history. It's time for the black community to wake up, get rid of the Democratic Party, and vote for a better candidate, or look at other parties that we need to be involved in, because the Democrats have showed us they don't give a damn about blacks. And for sure, if they can, they would destroy us altogether. Folks, I want you to go to my page, David L. Lowry Jr. on YouTube, or go to Moments of Truth and subscribe to the channels. We're trying to get our numbers up so that we can get this message out across the country to our people so that they can know one thing. If you don't believe what people say, if you don't believe what the normal media, the legacy media like CNN, ABC, look us up. Moments of Truth, let the truth be told. This way that you can get the good thoughts, you can get the news, and we will be able to continue to bring the truth to you. Go on and subscribe to the channel, folks. God bless you. We'll see you next week.